heard a pin drop.
Yep.
Let's move on. Here we are, budget workshop.
Changes to the budget. Everybody's got the budget one.
Are you on the green sheets? Okay.
I don't think I'm.
One of yours.
Well, not a couple of changes to the budget, a couple of proposed changes to the budget. And then I also wanna say, we need to start, closing in on this budget. We've had 5 council meetings since the last meeting. And every time we do, it's $175. For people that are watching what we spend, we need to, ask questions, come into the office, come to agreements, whatever. On page 7, which is, transfer to minor roads, changing that to 45,000, instead of 43,000. And that, is in part to the gravel that we're going to need for the road projects that we talked about last time. By changing, that 4,500, we had 2,000 left over that wasn't allocated anywhere, so now we have 34 cents in general fund. And if you go to page 8, major roads, maintenance and repair, again, changing that from 10,000 to 1,500, again, for the gravel that we talked about doing, on some of the roads. There is that fund balance in there of $21,000 that we can, utilize. We don't like to keep that much money in the fund balance for major and minor roads. That money is there to spend. Going to minor roads on the same page, page 8, changing, transfer from general fund to 45 to coincide with what we did on page 7. And then changing minor roads maintenance and repair from 12 to 3,000, again, for some of the gravel expenses that we talked about if we decide to do some of that. Minor roads had $1,274. So we're transferring an additional 2, and then we'll utilize 1,000 of that fund balance.
So for minor roads, maintenance, and repairs, you're from 12,000 to what?
15, adding 3,000. And then going to page 11, after reviewing everything, talking to the DPW, talking to Mr. Maury, instead of using those, that fund that is available to us, we can continue working on Erie Street at the end and Dutch Road. Dutch Road has been there for 2 years now, and it needs some additional gravel put on it, so any expenditures that we would have for that, those 2 roads would come out of that fund, the $18,000 fund balance.
What are you thinking as far as what improvements do you need to do on Erie Street?
It would be the end of Erie, past Mr. Moore's house, where the curb is, going
It
to
runs almost to Walnut.
Creekside.
It's where they
That's where the sand pile
legally
is.
come together.
That's where the sand pile is. And
I-
then Dutch Road on further down.
What, I'm sorry, on page 11, where you at, with the $18,000 balance?
The middle of the page, it used to say gravel for Pontiac Seneca Cemetery. I just changed that to continuing the Erie Street work that was started and the Dutch Road work that was started.
Right, I'm with you, but on page 11, where are you?
In the
saying-
middle of the page. No numbers changed, just words,
Oh, you're just adding,
changing words.
Fund balance of 18,321.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's from the bond that we have for that street, for those 2 streets?
And then if we have any money left over, we can pay an extra interest payment or something.
Did we ever find out if that money can be used for any other roads?
We have the availability to use it on Erie and Dutch. according to the bond payment,
Okay.
or the bond.
And the rest of this money that you're taking off from the other minor roads and switching that around, that's for what you're proposing to go around the school cemetery, Pontiac Street.
Right. We talked about that.
Everybody okay with that?
Again, this is just a proposal to work. Nothing else on here, has any different figures on it, from what we did last time, but. That's all I have.
That falls short though of what Ethan thought he would need to do that, doesn't it? I don't have that in front of me, but what you initially thought it would take to do Pontiac.
But we already have money allocated in major and minor roads, maintenance and
This
repairs.
just makes up the difference. Okay.
Check on page 13 of the same sheet, down for transfers from sewer. What did we transfer the sewer fund to?
In the middle of the page where it says transfer to 2003 debt,
Yes.
that's the sewer fund's share of the payment for this building.
So by adding those monies over to your major and minor roads, there used to be $2,000 and, what, $3,000 in the other one? That's $5,000, it takes our deficit spending up to $23,451. Are we looking at any of the cuts to try to reduce that, so we're not starting off the year with a negative?
I didn't hear what you said at the beginning of it.
You added $5,000 to the major and minor roads,
Right.
and on page 14, I guess would be, we're already in a deficit spending of $18,451 is what's projected. So that takes us up to $23,451.
No, doesn't change anything. Gives you more of a fund balance. You're utilizing what wasn't allocated for major and minor roads and transferring from the general fund into minor roads. And then utilizing the money that was left over. And then in major roads, there is a fund balance there that we don't need to have. Each year, we try to reduce that fund balance, but because we don't spend as much money as I allocate, we spend it, so we keep adding to it. And the 18,000 at the end is that, fund balance for the 213 bonding program.
We really didn't add anything to it, we just moved the money around.
Which is what we do all year long. With council's approval.
So do we have a goal on where we want our general fund balance to remain at? Or to drop down as low as what before we start saving again? And I'm only asking that because I looked at some other budget proposals online, one, actually Dexter. And theirs is a 200-page proposal. I'm assuming that they probably paid somebody a lot of money to do that. However, in their deficit spending, they have examples on why that's happening and where they're gonna be at in 2 to 3 years to bring that money back up. In ours, I'm not seeing that, and it just seems to me that we're just constantly picking away at it very slowly,
Picking away at what?
our general fund balance.
No, every year we put money into the general fund balance. This year, we did not allocate using any of general fund balance. That would be up to council to do that. We've talked about doing, resurfacing on Eagle Road, and as I mentioned the last time when we were looking at the budget, any monies for that particular project would come from your general fund balance. We are not a bank. We collect taxes from the village residents to provide services for the village residents. We've kept a little bit extra, we've kept a lot extra, in our general fund balance going through the few years before this year and last year. Just to have it on hand, you don't need to have 50% fund balance. Some of these other places that you're looking at may have money allocated, like we did. We had a general fund savings account that was for the bike path, that was up to $500,000 when we did the bike path. We took that money out of there. And it was designated in a general fund savings account. We have a general fund savings account right now that's not designated to any particular fund. It's up to council to designate that money in the fund balance. Atlas Township has millions of dollars in their fund balance for nothing.
Could that money be used to repair the dam if it was needed?
Yes. Whatever you allocate it for.
So wouldn't this kind of be the time that we need to be looking at possibly having a nice fund balance if we were to decide to repair that dam on a permanent basis, or replace it or whatnot, instead of having to assess the residents?
Nobody's ever said anything about assessing the residents. Speak in here anytime you guys want to. We have $300,000 in our fund balance that can be used for whatever you want it to be used for. Have I entertained any cuts? No, as far as staff is concerned. The budget was prepared the way you wanted, the way we talked about the budget. If you want anything changed, you're the council, you change it.
So could we, if it's our general fund and we decide if we wanted to do road repairs, hence 10 subdivision, could we make that decision?
No. The attorney's already told us, I think twice now, that we cannot use those tax dollars to repair a subdivision road. General roads in the village that service the school, that service Hebo Road, cross-through roads, like Ridge Road, Hebo Road. People that use the areas to get to the schools, the school buses, those types of things.
Can I ask questions so I know?
Yes, of course you do.
That's fine. Are you like people that ask questions? If you ask them before the meeting, I can give you more details.
I'm busy today. I
I
don't
know.
have time to think of all this stuff.
But we do need to come to a conclusion on this. I have to put ads in the paper, and we have to have a public hearing before this is adopted at the June meeting, which is, I don't know what date that is.
June meeting's when you can adopt the budget after towns.
We adopt the budget at the June meeting.
Well, then I guess I would just ask for one small correction on page 2, and I'm sorry, Jack, I'm not trying to pick on you, but for administrator wages, you have allocated $34,232. I believe, if my math's correct, that's based off the 5177.1 that we said was a misprint.
Yeah, it's
And that
$60
should-
difference.
Yeah, and I didn't know if that had to be in there for the budget approval, or 34,164.
Yeah, once you finalize it, everything will be in there, and it's, wages are paid according to the hourly rates, not paid according to that. Some years we have, 3 pays in a month, it just depends on when the last pay is of the fiscal year.
Mhm.
So these numbers can change a little bit. But I will correct that and give you the appropriate sheet. I calculated it out, it's like $30 in sewer fund and $60 in the other fund. I think I took a 9 instead of a 4. And it will reduce it by that.
And then the other question that I have, and this is one I just came across last night. For the 2014-15 adopted budget.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 1, but it's gonna kinda go through this whole thing. when I just look at the wages, and to start with you, 34,152, that's the general fund, and then,
Which page are you on?
I'm on page 2.
Alright.
And then for Tracy, it's 13,475. The question that I have is, I don't understand, if this was the adopted budget, these are all the numbers that had, your guys' COLA wages in there.
No. Last year's budget?
Yes.
No. Well, that has nothing to do with COLA. COLA was for this year.
Right, I understand that. But on the sheets and everything that was provided, and if you do the math at 1.5 for the COLA, it comes out exactly to 34,152. Now, I can look at what you guys get paid bi-weekly, do the math on that and tell that you're not getting the COLA. So I'm not saying that you are, I'm just saying that the budget was presented as if this was in here.
No, it wasn't.
Not last year.
Not last year.
They didn't get COLA last year.
I'm not saying they got COLA last year, I'm not
The
saying you guys are
end-
taking
The
it.
end amount on these pages
Yes.
is if there was COLA in it. The 13,512, that has COLA in it. 13,475 is the same wage that she had the year before. And we got raises last year.
And I'm not claiming that you did, I'm just saying the budget that was adopted shows that the raises are in there. And if you want afterwards or tomorrow, I can come in with the math and show you exactly what I'm talking about. But if you look at the 2013-14 sheet that looks like this, has your numbers off to the side, and all your numbers in here are in existence with 34,152, that's if you get your 1.5. And if you do the math, it comes out exactly the same.
The written numbers that are up to the side,
Yeah.
that's changing this year's budget. That doesn't have anything to do with the
No.
existing budget that we're in, or the budget before that. Those are adding $300, $200, whatever it is, to everybody's wage if you put the COLA in it.
Need some more paperwork?
Nope.
This is off your sheet from next year, 2014 wage proposals, this is where you're at. This is if you add your cost of living in here. If you look, 13,152. And if you look at the green sheet that we were on page 2, it coincides with it. All the administrators' budget got approved for the COLA in there. That's what I'm saying, so I figured out the math 1.5 and it's in there.
No, it was not in there. This is what was put in the budget, 21,125 for each person.
First column is approved budget, correct?
Mhm.
34,152. 34,152. You can go to Tracy's.
These are the same thing, these are the same thing. These numbers that are on the side right here
Yes,
is if there were COLA put in it, and I did not add those into these numbers. These are the exact same numbers as these. That's what I prepared.
for this
They're
year's
the
budget.
exact same, 2015-16.
Yep,
These little numbers on the side are if anybody got COLA and where it goes.
right, that's this number over here.
Right here.
That's gonna
They're
be this
not
number.
in these, it's not added in either one of these numbers.
Okay. I'll sit down and show what I'm talking about.
Did you understand what I was saying?
I do not, because one thing says 34,152, and this is the approved budget, with your COLA in here, 34,152. If you come over here, the year without the COLA, it's 33,651, which is what it's at.
I don't know which page you're on again.
It's the same thing I just showed you.
They're not in there for last year.
I'm not saying you guys got the raise, I'm not claiming that, I'm just saying the budget that was approved is wrong.
The numbers that are on the sheet that they're not in there. The numbers that are on your green sheet the COLA is in there, because I was told to prepare the budget with the COLA in there for this year.
For this year, that is correct.
So your green sheet,
Right,
this green sheet,
yes.
they're in there.
I would agree with you, and when you do the math, all that comes up for the COLA. That's what got me looking for the 34,152, because if you take your COLA out of your 34,232, you should be down to 33,651. That's not what was approved for last year. Your 34,152 is what was approved. That has the COLA in it.
I don't get for this year. What was approved then was 34,152, and what was prepared on this budget with the COLA in it is 34,232. For me, if you're looking at me.
Yep, and if you look at you without your COLA, it should have been 33,651, because that should have been the same numbers as last year.
One was 1.5 and one was 1.75.
Right, so your one on your far right, which I am agreeing with you, your COLA's in there, it's at 1.75. On the far left, that's 1.5. And if we don't do your COLA, it should be 33,651.
I'll have to calculate it out. Like I said, if you guys ask questions in the office, give me a call, I can figure things out. Sitting at a meeting and getting hit broadside.
I'm not thinking broadside,
It has to be.
You're not in this meeting yet.
Just hold on, don't confuse everything, let them speak.
I'm not-
Let them talk.
I'm not broadside, what I'm asking is that if our numbers, what I was going to get to, is if our numbers were going to change because we adopted a budget and yet we're not actually going to spend that. So are we gonna have more money than what this is actually saying?
I don't understand what you're saying right now.
Of course she doesn't.
So in total revenue, we're at negative. I'm gonna go through this whole thing. $595,000 coming in, depreciation $81,000, and then your spending going out. It's $91,000, so you actually have close to $2,000 to $3,000 that's not actually going to be spent this year. So what I'm trying to get at is our deficit actually looking to where it's gonna be, concerning to last year's budget, since the budget numbers were off. What I'm trying to do is get accurate numbers so I know that what I'm looking at.
Where's that?
I'm trying to find money, and I did, but, and I think you think I'm picking on you, and I'm not.
Again, I can't sit here and figure out what you're talking about in a meeting.
Okay.
There was no COLA last year.
I agree, you guys did not get paid COLA, I'm not saying you did.
And the numbers this year have, in here have COLA added to. Except for you looking at mine, it's $104. Pick somebody else.
Can you stop up and talk to her, and maybe you guys can go over this one-on-one, and then I'm gonna go over this too with somebody at home. Okay. I think I got
I'll go
the
over
gist
it all
of what your
tomorrow.
question. Let's see if we can get on the same page. I really don't know, I gotta throw this to somebody else. But I know somebody else I can talk to about it. Okay. So, with that said, I have a note on that. At this point, do we wanna go over each and everything in the proposed budget, or what changes do we want?
Well, you can tie this in with your street, little sweeper here. We're looking at additional,
Well, let's stay on the budget unless you're tying this in, is that what you're doing?
no, that's the only questions that I had, I mean, I don't,
I wanna stay on the budget till we figure out that whether or not this is what we wanna go forward with.
The things that you need to, in addition to whatever else anybody else has, you need to make a determination whether or not you're going to hire Mr. Chris Commissioner as the third DPW. His numbers are in there. And other things that were put in there were changing the personnel policy to include additional days, to put us in line with other communities in the area, and the COLA. And if you're not going to do any of them, that will change the budget completely. If you're going to do some of them, they don't have any effect on the budget.
Let's take them one at a time, guys, what do you wanna do?
Well,
Comments?
if we start with the COLA, I think that should be something that should be looked at every budget meeting that we have. I don't think that's just something automatically be put in on paper stating that they received that, because we gotta see where the budget is in spending. And if I'll go off of Doug McAbey here from last year's meeting, we're in the same boat that we were last year when it comes to dam removal, drains, and whatnot. And, you know, there's two people remaining on this council that voted no for the COLA last year. Nothing really has changed.
COLA was not proposed last year.
I'm sorry?
COLA was not proposed last year.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, you can.
Here, all right, I'll show you the minutes. Chicken, I'm seriously not sitting here fighting with you.
How did we get turned down in the budget?
You have it, I just showed you the sheet of paper. It shows it with your numbers in it. In the minutes, it says unfinished business, and COLA will not be approved. You guys are asking for a 1.5.
It wasn't called COLA to my memory. There was an increase added, an increase asked for, and it was not granted. So you don't need to look at it anymore. I mean, there was an increase asked for, there was nothing granted last year.
I'm taking the same stance as council did last year for the COLA raise. For the exact same scenarios, nothing has changed.
So what's really on the agenda here is, are we gonna add a new employee that's built, that, those wages are built into the current budget
Correct.
proposed?
Let's stay on target and try to take this one step at a time. I don't care which one of the three we talk about first, but as long as we're gonna talk about, you know, cost of living or COLA, whatever you wanna call it. But let's stay on that for a minute and talk about that right before we jump into
Okay.
employees. Discussion on it. Mr. Vicky, we're clear on where you're at?
I feel there's no reason they should fall behind. What other people are getting as far as cost of living. They gotta live too, and they have families. And, $200 is not a lot of money. But it would help buy some bread and milk if they need it. I mean, you let them fall behind, and when you catch up, then you really holler, so. Let's not let them fall behind, and, I make a motion that,
No,
motion.
No, we can't do the motion.
that's my feeling on it.
I feel, the same as Jake. I'm not feeling, COLA I work for a multi-million-dollar corporation. Yes, I know it's not a small municipality, but, we lost our COLA. It's just not the time for it.
Do you get a raise?
Yeah,
You gotta buy.
There you go.
I can't tell you the last time I had a raise.
Okay, Mr. Horton.
You
Well-
just got a raise.
If the cost of living is in the budget, cost of living is one of those things where the economy that we are currently in, does not project to us that, expenses are gonna be going down, if anything, expenses are gonna go up. And that's one of the benefits of the cost of living, it gives the employee additional income that they didn't have before. Usually cost of livings are a benefit to the employee. The employees that have the benefit for the cost of living, tend to be good employees, and when they know they're making a few dollars more, there's that, feeling of that they're being wanted, and there's a tendency for them to do a little better job. The cost of living is not a major problem, and it is a true benefit for the employees, and good employees or happy employees, they do a good job, that's what we're after.
I would kind of roll it in, and I'm gonna jump ship here and do something I said we weren't gonna jump on to one topic after another, but I guess I'm kind of more interested in what we're gonna do with the additional days that they wanna have off. And with that said, if you wanna restrict them to 1 day off, I don't have a problem with the 1.5 increase. But just give them 1 day off instead of the 3. And that kind of offsets, you're only looking at just a few dollars, it's not that huge what they're asking at 1.5. But instead of 3 days off, just give them 1 day off, and the cost of living is full.
Okay,
I'm compromising with you guys.
well,
We let the staff decide what day it is.
Well, I'm just kicking something out here to see if we can negotiate and come to terms with something here, you know? Let's compromise somehow if we can.
Is the question, the 1 day off, does that include a sick day, or is that a separate
Has
day?
nothing to do with that, that's just an additional holiday is what we're after, right?
Is it a holiday we're talking about?
Bringing it up
I mean,
to what all other communities have. Well, no, other communities, the basic of what other communities have.
Okay. You had Veterans Day, and what were the other two?
Martin Luther King and Columbus Day. If we have a choice, I would say that we would go for Veterans Day because we'd like to honor our veterans.
Make more sense.
And nobody else works.
yeah. Veterans Day, I think.
In governmental jobs, nobody's gonna be open probably. Guys, I'm trying to find some common ground here. That's what I'm trying to do.
And these are.
I'm not gonna let you speak right now, dear. At the public, I'll let you speak at the public here right now. I'm trying to get something done here, and trying to work out where we all walk away from the table and be somewhat happy.
My goal too, so.
I guess, I'm gonna fortunately take devil's advocate for this whole meeting. We're hiring another DPW worker because we have so much work that needs to be done, that we need another employee. Yet we wanna turn around and give them more paid days off and have less work done. I mean, I'm not trying to say they don't deserve it, I'm not trying to be that guy, but, I'm sorry, what's that, Jackie?
I was just asking if she's able to get everything.
Just a thought.
Anybody else? I guess now we can roll in the employee, we might as well talk about that while we're rolling this all in, because I kind of broke my own ties here, what I wanted to do.
Are they, to be quite honest with you, Mr. Baldwin, this is kinda hard to do since we don't actually see timesheets or, anything at the year to show when they took their vacation, how many sick days they actually took. You know, and I'm not saying that anybody's abusing anything, but depending on how it's managed, somebody could take time off and still get paid for it. Again, not accusing, but we don't have that document in front of us to say everything's being done fairly.
Well, I sure she'd have said something before, because I would have gotten the information, you know, that you're requesting, and there's nothing wrong with what you're requesting.
Right, and in all fairness, that's something that we shouldn't have to request, it's just something to be provided when a proposal like this is coming to us.
So their vacation time is if they don't use it, they don't get it, so they're gonna take it. And they have, I don't know, X number of sick days.
We don't get any sick days.
Don't get any sick
I mean, we
days.
get paid for sick days, but there's not a set amount.
There's not a set amount of sick days you can take, so you can take an unlimited amount of sick
I
days.
don't make those decisions, councils do. There's not in the personnel policy a number of sick days.
Right.
We don't have a number of sick days that can carry over, we don't have a number of sick days, nobody abuses sick days.
And when you look in the personnel,
You were on the council, Mrs. Wartelli, you
Please,
can
please,
change
please,
it
please.
any time. I'm not gonna have this
Well,
time,
I-
I'm telling you.
I want to stop it all right now.
Don't you even think
Take
about it.
care of her.
Please,
She's
please,
your
ladies, please,
administrator.
please,
Well,
ladies,
she's
She's
on
hired
his hand.
2,000 a
Please.
year.
Hey,
please.
You got it.
Yeah,
that's,
I don't want this to get out of hand.
it is already.
If you keep interjecting, it is, yeah. Please,
so,
let's try to look at this rationally, objectively, you know.
That was part of the proposal, is to have someone take a look at our personnel policy and help us with the personnel policy. I presented it at the very beginning, because nothing's been looked at for a while. We go by what's in the personnel policy for vacation time, and nobody can carry over vacation time, so they have to use the vacation. Sick days and vacation time are reported on, when they get their paychecks. If anybody wants to see any of these things, I've said it 10 times. Come into the village office, talk to somebody.
Oh my God,
Please,
I gotta leave. You put up with her.
please,
You are
please,
sick,
please,
Jackie.
please,
Sick, sick, sick.
please.
Baldwin, my God, wake up. What the hell? She is nuts.
Good night.
Nuts.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're laughing.
Good night.
I thought I read in there that you had 3 days of sick time that you could take, and anything after that would be looking at FMLA or something like that. Yeah, they had something like that. in there.
I think that when we evaluate everyone, doesn't that show on there, your evaluations, how many days you've missed? But when your position is evaluated, it is listed how many days you've had off, right?
The information's in the office, anybody can come in and get it.
No.
What was the time when she said why?
What, I'll leave it. Never mind. So if we were to come in before the next meeting, we could see the evaluations that were done, and it would have the times and whatnot that are in there. Are a lot of people carrying over their vacation or wanting to carry over their vacation?
No, nobody can carry over vacation.
If they had the option, would they?
Probably not. It depends on how busy it is and how much time things get done. So far, everything gets done.
Where did you say in this packet was, it showed, sick days are unlimited?
It doesn't show that, it's just what you're saying, it's not worded, and I think Tracy corrected me, it's like page 2, maybe 3 in there. It shows, like you were saying, 3 consecutive days, you gotta have a doctor's note.
It doesn't say you have unlimited, it says for after 3 days, and then it's up to the supervisor of the area,
Supervisor of what?
whichever area you're in.
So basically,
Ethan would talk to me if somebody were taking too many days down at the DPW, and I manage, everything but the village office.
Wow. That disturbs me greatly.
It'll still be back on the president's shoulders anyway, correct? I mean, he oversees everything to begin with, correct?
President of the council?
Yes.
No, it's the council that makes the decisions on all these things. We're a
I
board of
for
5
one
people
didn't
that make the
approve that.
decisions.
no, this was done before we came in. It was probably long before they came in.
It was done in the late 80s, like I said.
First questions always have.
We need to make sure that we're covered and you can take away whatever else you want to.
I don't think we're trying to take anything, we were just trying to tighten it up so that it stops these arguments.
Well, I'm the one that brought it to you to
Mhm.
do this.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, it needs to be looked at.
I
You know,
agree.
once again, guys, there's nothing we can't change if you wanna change things too. That's another issue altogether. Right now, we have the 3 things that we're looking at. Number 1 is hiring need, additional employee, the COLA.
Let me ask you this, are your holiday hours counted towards time worked?
Whatever your schedule is then. I'm not sure I understand. Whatever your schedule is for that day is what you get paid.
Right, so if you get your regular 40-hour check, if you take the 4th of July off, you're still gonna get a 40-hour check.
Correct.
So the budget's really not going to change when it comes to that, we're just looking to give you guys 3 more days off.
Correct.
These are proposals.
What do we have?
We're all over.
Yeah, we're pretty much like all over the map right now. Hey, you guys wanna talk, the employee, let's roll this all in, get it all out here, air it. Do you have
What do
any
you
questions?
think?
What's your opinion?
On,
I've been talking a lot, my mouth's getting a little dry, I gotta be quiet now.
on Aaron, Aaron is, he can do a lot of things that some of my other employees can. He's had the experience of going out there measuring roads. He can figure out how much gravel we need, how many, or how many ton. He's done all this on these other jobs. When he worked for Mr. Johnson, when he left here and went to Mr. Johnson really took him under his wing and trained him. I mean, there's not a piece of equipment that you can bring in here that he can't run. A lot of it, he knows how to tear apart and put back together. There's one down there that I would not let him take apart. I let him take the cylinder off, but wouldn't let him take it apart because it's spring loaded. And if you don't have the right equipment, the spring comes out of there, so they can spring around the tire,
Yeah,
you can get hurt. So you take it into Flint where they got this stuff. But as far as getting the thing off there and getting it back on, it saves us money. He's pretty, they're just, for his age, he is very, very knowledgeable. And for the price you're paying him, I'm sure he can go anywhere he wants, but he's close. It's close to where he lives. And I might say he might wear his heart on his sleeve because he was born and raised in Goodrich. And he wants to see it better. He knows how to do the work.
Yep.
And
Well, you know, an employee that's well-trained, I know if he worked for Mike Johnson, if he had to work on equipment, I know he could, and Mike would make sure he knew how to do it, or he wouldn't let him do it. For driving, big-time equipment, whether he's driving a U-Haul, or not a U-Haul trailer, but a gravel train, he had to have a license to do that kind of thing. If he had to jump on a backhoe or something like that, Mike would have to do it, I'm sure, because that's part of his occupation, is doing basements and walls and all that kind of thing. So, the fact that he already has the training, I think is very important. You don't have to train anybody, you don't have to pay the cost of training someone. And if he thinks he's qualified to step in and do the job, and I know he did some of that stuff this winter, then why not? It's again to the fact that another employee is gonna help make that part of the business a lot easier. We're gonna get more work done faster, most likely, and that's kind of what you're after. If you get an 8-hour job done in 6 hours, you get paid 6 hours. That's good, you got someone to help do the work.
You know how I feel, guys, you know? The reason it's on the agenda is because it was me.
Well, for me, how often do we clear out our catch basins? Because I believe at our last meeting, we said regardless if we get this is kind of going with the air, so I'm trying to jump in here, but if we decide to have this big vacuum cleaner come in and.
the vac,
That has nothing to do with our internal DPW people. That's something that,
I get that, but now that we hired a DPW person or we're looking at it, is that something that we can go away from and not have to have done?
no, you're still gonna have to vac them out. Some of them are down there quite a ways.
The catch basins,
We clean them on the top.
yeah.
When they gotta be vac, that stuff has to be taken away. You cannot just dig it out and dump it in the back.
Okay, but for the power sweeper, because this is where, and I'm sorry.
and yeah, let me jump in, I know where you're going.
Yeah.
And with that said, some of the intersections down there by the school, there's a prime example down there on Seneca and Erie Street. That catch basin there was always filled with gravel because of the cars going back and forth, bringing the gravel from the gravel road onto the approach of the asphalt. that catch basin was always nasty. They are working, and I made it very clear to them, keep the stones back, and they have been. So with that said, the more they do their own internal sweeping of the shoulders of the roads, the less sediment that goes in the catch basin. You know, hopefully we won't need to have those guys come and vacuum out our catch basins as often. And that's kind of what you're implying.
Right, right. How many times a year do we normally have that done?
Not even once.
Not even once. We'll go
Now, are you
through.
talking about catch basin cleaning, or
Yes.
are you talking about sweeping the roads?
Catch basin clean? Maybe once?
When they need it?
And how often do we sweep the roads? Not our guys, but this contractor that we're looking at here.
We're looking at 3 times this year.
Normally it's twice, right?
We're looking at a fall when the leaves are out.
They change good times in Goodrich, and we usually clean up 4 good times in Goodrich. So they would do a spring, they would do one the end of July, and then when the fall leaves fall.
What streets are normally done by that? Just our paved streets?
Everything. Yeah, just
Paved streets and subdivisions.
subdivisions
In the subdivisions?
Condo association in the back, all subdivisions. Dirt roads we don't do.
So, and if you look, you kind of drive around, you can kind of see what streets are needed and what don't, and what are priorities and what are not. For me, if we were to be hiring a third person, that would be, I'm not saying a great job for him, but a great job for the DPW to do and try to save us some money. Granted, it's only, if we do it twice, what is this, $2,600, let's call it $3,000 for the year, but we just hired another third DPW worker. Are we
You're
really
gonna
gonna
pay,
need that?
you're gonna pay to get rid of that stuff. It's gotta go to Flint. You just
Well,
can't,
we're gonna
or
get a
either that or you
dumpster.
get a dumpster and put it in,
Dumpster.
and it's gotta be hauled away.
Sweeping, we just got that broom,
Mhm.
that's on there. Last year,
The front
the end,
lawn.
the end of last year. So, they've been out sweeping different things, whether they can do an adequate job. I mean, maybe we only do it 2 times a year. They've been out doing things now, or maybe you haven't tried doing it at all, but it's not the same
Right.
sweeping.
I understand that, but I just think for a community's point of view, if we're hiring a third DPW worker, then why are we contracting work out that a DPW worker could potentially be doing?
That's a good point.
But there are also some things that it's, you know, they're not gonna be able to do, and sweeping all of those, you know, the gutters around the entire streets, that's not gonna happen. Keeping the intersections clean, you're not only keeping the sediment on the catch basins, but you make the intersections where you're stopping and turning safer. And when done by the school is definitely, should be priority.
Is that about our only one? Cause I seen Genesee County doing M15 this morning.
M15 is their road,
So our most important one is the school.
and around the school because of the children.
School, uptown, parking uptown, they have to get in there in the morning to get that. I mean, they have to be in there at 6 o'clock to get it, because 7:30 is starting to park full.
I don't know if you've noticed it, but they have been up there sweeping by hand on the streets and around Ridge Road and.
Got some beautiful weather too.
Well, you get a lot of sand that comes, you know, all those gravel trains run through town, well, they all leak.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And get this rain, go down Dutch Road, get mud on it, starts drying off a day or two, it falls out in the roads. And, we crack a lot in.
Mhm.
And, but really, to get a good job, you need to bring the sweepers in, because they got water there, keep the dust down, and they're done in about, with 2 machines, they're done in about 5 hours. It's clean, they washed it. We can sweep it up, but you're not gonna get it all, but they put water down in there with the big brushes they got, they can clean it better than you can sweep it. That's the reason we went to them. I've seen the guys uptown sweep and sweep and sweep, and there's still, that fine layer still in there that don't come up in the broom.
Well, maybe do it in the spring and in the fall, and have DPW do it. I don't know. We're gonna increase it, because again, Good Times Goodrich switched when their It's good.
Yeah, if you do it in the spring and fall, then just before good time, you just sweep out uptown and do the best you can with it. But they have the same problem sweeping uptown that anybody else does, because once they get started and then they start parking, you gotta come back a day or two, because you can't get people to move their car.
What time they start in one?
6, but they're not gonna get it all done before that.
Ooh, wait a minute,
No, they don't start at 6, they start at 7.
7?
the DPW? So,
They start at 7. Snow time,
Depending
they
on-
start earlier, but
depending on the snow.
it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Some of these guys have been doing it.
30.
How much overtime is taken in that department, Jackie?
Last winter, not too much. Year before, a lot.
I don't think it's summer at all, period, it's only as emergencies arise.
If it's raising or lower the gates or something like that, they, quite often in the wintertime, if one of them happens to be in town, he'll come here and throw some salt wherever we need it. If he's not here an hour, he don't even charge us. But, if he's gotta come in,
Check comp time.
Do we still have a lady doing all the gardens and planter boxes? We do. We're gonna, Kim Green, pay her $2,460 a year.
That's something that we visit here in a little bit to renew a contract with her, isn't it? Don't we go over that in the springtime, going over the gardener's position and job?
It's in the budget. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I didn't realize that she had a year-to-year.
She's an employee, she works year to year. She's been out there working.
I didn't realize that. I thought that we would, appoint or hire somebody in the spring for that position.
The kid, it's up to you guys. No, she's been out working. She's an
I would like to revisit that one, Joe, I'll tell you that right now.
employee.
I had
Absolutely.
many complaints on her last year. I talked to her repeatedly and she basically didn't do anything for me. I'm totally unhappy with her.
I've talked to her and I will take full credit for what happened with her. I was off all summer last year and wasn't here to work hand in hand to show her what needs to be done. I've been meeting with her, talking with her. She started working last month. And, she will do just fine, but if you wanna do something with her, then we.
I didn't like her attitude towards me at all. I had
Well, I'm
multiple
not going
complaints. I
into that
talked to
right
her
now.
about the complaints and she basically, Jackie told me that she didn't care what I thought. Yeah.
I wasn't here, I can't.
Well, I'm
I
not
heard
saying
one side of the
that.
Well, I say
conversation.
we omit that from our budget.
We're still gonna have to get somebody to do it. The question is, who?
Why can't the DPW do it?
Bingo.
It's never been done that way.
Yeah, it used to be done that way, but it wasn't.
They're complaining because they
Things
had
do
to plant
the
flowers.
Plant a flower pot.
Oh, they can drive heavy equipment and count how many pieces of
It's
gravel
up
are
to
in
you
a
guys,
truck.
it's your budget.
And I just said how I felt, DPW can do it. You wanna hire somebody full-time, you're gonna, you know, we gotta do
Talk to
some
me,
give and take
Mr. Moore, what do you
here.
think?
I don't think the DPW job is planting flowers, so,
Oh, my.
Department of Public Works,
no. They've got enough to do without planting flowers. You want them out there
Oh,
planting all
dear
day?
God.
Mark?
Well, the only thing I would say is, I mean, as an independent businessman, I'd rather pay somebody, $10 an hour than $20 an hour to water flowers. That I would say.
I'll do it for 20
If the bill, well, I think she gets $10 an hour, isn't it?
Yes.
I'd much rather pay somebody $10 an hour and use my guy that I'm paying $20 an hour for, something a little different, but that's just how I operate my business. I'm just, like I say, I'm not saying we give it to the DPW, I don't know if I want her to do the job, I guess that's what my point is. And if you wanna keep her
That's
intact, I don't have a
something
problem with that, but I will say one thing, if she lets it go like she did last year, I will pull the trigger on her.
That's not a discussion that we have at this meeting.
Well, we're just talking
It's a
about,
budget.
the budget and a couple of $1,000, so.
We don't talk about employees particularly. your employees at a meeting.
I guess that probably is true, should do it.
That's true. We can sit down and have a meeting about it.
Gentlemen, once again, what are you doing here? You have three things.
Well, I expressed my concerns with the cost of living, again, I don't think that's something that needs to go into your, what do you keep calling it, the employee what?
Personnel policy.
Personnel policy.
Well, so we talked about adding, 1 day off for the employees, so that's kind of a done deal.
We're taking away two that's proposed then. We're only gonna allow one, is that what you're saying? Because they had three proposed, Mr. Horty. So you're saying that you wanna change the budget to, to where it's policy, to where it's 2 days that you wanna give them off?
Well, we discussed it, I don't need to do it this evening, but, if 3 days,
I didn't hear what he said. Why are you pointing at me? I
I'm
don't know
not
why
pointing
you're
at you.
pointing at me. Again, these are proposals for you guys to discuss. And looking at surrounding areas, which somebody's gonna argue about that, I'm quite sure. I have the list in here of what other communities get. If you wanna do 1 day, our preference is Veterans Day. Again, you don't wanna do any days? I'll take it back and tell the employees what you think.
Yeah, there you go.
If you don't wanna do
Gentlemen,
COLA,
let's
that's
go there
entirely up
first.
to
What
you.
do you think on the 1 day?
well, I wrote 1 day down, and the Veterans Day being a good day to do it. Whatever we talk about and we come up with at this budget meeting does not necessarily mean that 1 day can't be changed to another day or something later on. It really depends what's going on. So it's not like you're gonna put it
This was
in
proposed
stone.
at last year's budget and postponed to this year's budget.
Well, that's just my comment, that's,
Well, if
the
it's
employee
1
has-
day and they choose Veterans Day, that's the day it's gonna be. I don't understand what you're saying.
Well,
that's what I wrote down.
And if I'm understanding Rick correctly, you're wanting to make a floating holiday is basically what you want, so they
Yeah.
can pick a day.
Well, I just
Well,
wrote
They
down,
wanna take it on one of
That's
these
not what
three.
you're saying, right?
no, I just said a one day off, that each employee would have, and I just picked Veterans Day as the day to have that 1 day off. If that's, needs to be a different day, that's from you guys, who wanna pick any day off. Maybe just be a flexible day. Maybe we should have to say, you get a day off and it's gotta be Veterans Day, maybe that's not the right way to go. Maybe the day off will be the day, and then he has to take it away shopping, who knows? But a day off is a day off. It's his choice to do what he wants to do.
Well, they got plenty of sick days for that. I think if it's a holiday, excuse me? I'm speaking to the council. Right here, it says you get paid sick holidays. It's a holiday, Veterans Day.
It is a holiday.
It doesn't mean you get floating days off. Any day you want, you get that holiday off.
So we need to make a decision on these things.
That's what I'm trying to do, but we keep going every which way.
I understand that. If you don't wanna give an extra day off, just say you don't wanna give an extra day off. If you don't wanna give COLA, don't give COLA. If you don't wanna hire another person, don't hire another person.
Well, I think it's pretty much, spoken for itself that Jake and I don't agree on COLA. The rest of the council do. Is for,
I think we've heard from Mr. Baldwin.
the holiday, what's that?
I don't think we've heard from Mr. Baldwin on that.
Well, and kind of what I had said is, that, would you guys be on board if we give out one more additional day, Veterans Day, we're gonna call it, and go ahead and give them the 1.5, the COLA, the cost of living, or whatever you might define it as. It all works out the same. You don't get the 3 days, the other 2 days basically cover the cost of 1.5. That means close.
Yeah, And may I make a statement, President?
Certainly, that's what we're doing.
When I was speaking in regards to the sick days, I at GM, we get 5 sick days to do with whatever we want. I'm not implying you're gonna abuse them and take 10, 7, whatever. I just don't like how it's written in there that you get depending on supervisor's approval, which I would like to think, and I apologize for blatantly implying that you can take 10 or 20 sick days. So, with that said, I feel comfortable with no COLA and one sick day, or COLA and 1 sick day.
So,
That's my opinion,
so you're on board with what I said? That was-
yes.
Okay, Mr. Becky?
Well, regardless of how many days you give them, they're still, I mean, I'm not gonna do all this math on the calculator, but just for the administrator's parts, administrative office, it's a 2,000 a year raise. So, again, I'm not trying to be this guy, but their holiday pays have nothing to do with the cost of living. They're gonna get paid regardless they're here or they're working. One's not offsetting the other. So, you know,
What did you say about a $2,000 raise?
well, you're getting, Pat's getting $364,
$900.
Noreen's getting
Sorry, you're talking
$468.
about
Oh, she's, oh.
Combined?
Yes,
yeah.
combined, total,
Yeah,
because we're doing budgets total.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, if you go down a little further, we're at 1,800. We can round it up to $2,000, $4,000 for
I understand
for
what you're
everybody. So I'm not, listen, sometimes my hat's backwards being a union guy, and I'm all for giving everybody as much time they can off and take advantage of every situation. But if you look at where we're at last year to where we're at to this year, I don't know much has changed. And if you didn't give them a 1.5 raise, I'll say as Jackie is stating, that it wasn't a COLA, 1.75, there's not much difference from last year to this year. So if we didn't do it last year, I don't know why we're doing it again this year.
Because of the 3.2.
Right, and then we can also go a little further and say, if we really wanna be sticklers here, everybody else, and I'm sorry, Jackie, but you're just right in front of me, should get the 1.75, except for Jackie, cause in all honesty, she got a $4 raise for her
Go there if
benefits
I
that
were
went
you.
up.
But that's,
I'm sure I'd go there.
What, I don't understand, I have no issue going there. So, please entertain me on why we don't need to go down that road. Yours went up to $22,000 from 13. Everybody else dropped.
And why did it go up?
I have no idea, you tell me.
Because of my age.
How old did you turn?
And I wouldn't go there.
Are you 60, well, I can go there because it's our health insurance and this is what we
Yes.
discussed. Are you Medicare eligible?
No.
Well,
But they changed, Rick can tell you, they changed how the.
they did change
insurance
that,
is
and if
done.
we're gonna go back down the healthcare plan, then you
Rick's
should
gonna
have,
plead the fifth.
then you should have a set amount for the employees, everybody contributes the same. You cannot discriminate against one individual just because their age changed. Everybody has life issues. Everybody has a cancer, everybody has some kind of a sickness. It should be a set rate for all employees.
Again.
So again,
that's
we gave her,
up to the council.
and I agree with you, and it never brought to the council. Just because you take it to Mr. Horton and he reviews it, that didn't come down here for a vote. Putting it into the budget does not bring it about to a vote. You want us to discuss your health care, you throw out 3 different proposals, we look at them, we agree to that, it gets set in the budget. Process never happened. So again, Mr. Baldwin, Jackie got a $4 an hour raise. If you wanna catch everybody up and give them a 1.75, that would be fair if we're talking about your employee policy, your personnel policy file. But you gotta put everything together.
touch on it?
The healthcare is 99% of the time it's age driven, so if you got somebody 25 and somebody 45, the 45 rate is gonna cost more, that's the way it's done, it's not done on the number of employees. Unless you got a giant group, and we don't have a giant group, it's age driven.
I understand that.
So, I mean, that's what it is,
Do you sell health insurance, Mr. Hart?
but what?
sell health insurance?
Yes, sir. 30 years I have. Blue Cross, you name, used to be Health Plus, but they went down the tube,
Gotcha.
unfortunately, but they did. And there's individual companies that we use also.
Gee,
I think when the policy comes due again, they should contribute a little bit, but not a whole lot. I work for GM, I pay $108 a month. And now on Medicare, my wife and I each pay $112 a month. And, so it comes to $300 and some, but you know what? I don't begrudge it, because I got a policy. But I also worked for GM for 41 years. And, I started out at $2.65 an hour at GM in 1964. I didn't ask Buick for a job, they asked me, and as far as I'm concerned, it's always Buick Motor Division. And, it really hurt Flint badly when it left.
Well,
Fisher 1 left, Fisher 2 left, AC left, Turnstead left, and devastated that community. And,
Isn't the UAW paying for your retirement right now?
pardon me?
Doesn't the UAW cover your retirement right now?
Yes, they do.
So it's not even General Motors. General Motors doesn't even offer health insurance, except for the employees.
Well, they've had the money given to them by GM
That
to
is
pay
correct.
for it. And, actually, what I don't understand with GM now, I got 3 I policies. Why don't they just make
We don't
one
have
good
any.
one? These people don't have an eye policy, they don't have a dental policy.
We don't have retirement.
I look at the sheriff department, we pay them guys $248,000 a year, and $260,000 a year on top of that is their benefits. So it's costing more for their benefits than we pay them by the hour.
I just wanna do their laundry,
Their laundry, yeah, we pay to do their laundry.
a lot too. Okay, we're getting off subject here.
And going back to your statement, as I stated before, we could not get a renewal policy for the insurance that we had. And so it was a last minute, situation. Mr. Horton was the president of the council at that time, Mr. Horton sells insurance, and he reviewed the policy and indicated that what we ended up with and what we have currently, is a competitive policy. If you wanna take a look at the policy we have now, now's the time to do it. We don't do it in November when it reviews, because it's already set in the budget. Now, again, that's a working budget, you can change the budget, whatever, but you need to start working on it now.
We can change the budget, but we can't change the policy. You guys have already enrolled into it.
Come fall, it's up for renewal in fall.
It changes in November. So if you're thinking of changing it in November, now's the time that you do it.
Can't change it now. All I'm just trying to point out, somebody gets a raise, everybody else hasn't, and now you wanna give another 1.75. Just for me, under equal employment of opportunity, how come one person got a raise and nobody else has?
Well, you know, you gotta think about the position that our village manager is in versus, not picking on the DPW at all, but that's not exactly their scenario. So if you work for General Motors, which I think you did the general foreman or the foreman make more hourly, more wage than the hourly guy or not? Chances are he did. Why did he make more money? Because of the job position. We're not sitting in a whole lot different situation here.
We're not, but I would argue that with overtime, night differential and shift differential and all that stuff, it probably came either equal or well ahead of his manager.
Well,
Now, once you get above that manager, that's a completely different argument.
So overtime's a whole other issue.
Yeah, I mean, he's working for it, to have to keep it.
you never worked for jail.
No, my dad didn't, it's pretty lot.
So what are you gonna do?
That's what I wanna know, what are we gonna do?
Where we at?
What are we gonna change?
So what I'm hearing is no COLA in 1 day. And I can change the budget to reflect that.
No, with,
I think they should have the COLA in the 1 day.
Tim, that's where you're at?
that's where I'm at.
I'm there.
Where
That's
is
good.
it?
Okay, we're good on that one. Let's talk about the employee. One day off, you get your 1.5. Okay, that's what you,
Leave the COLA in,
yes.
it's 1.75.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. All right.
No, it makes a difference, that's why I just
know,
jumped all over
I
it.
know.
Get that decimal point right.
Okay, 1 day. You get 1 day off, go. Now we're looking at the employee. I think we know where everybody stands, let's just kinda go around. Pete's on board, I'm on board.
I'm on board, that's, you gotta have people to do the job.
Well, I'm on board for 35 hours. For now.
You wanna cut his hours back, okay, let's talk about that.
That's a possibility.
I agree, that's a possibility, you know, let's work together, guys.
Well,
Common ground.
You know, I don't have a problem with cutting hours back, maybe this time of the year, or a different time of the year. The deal is that if you're in the winter months, when you for sure you need an extra hand out there driving a truck. I mean, I've seen very.
I'm not sure, and Pete, you're gonna have to help me out here, but I would think that actually there would be more time spent in the summer than what there would be in the winter. Winter time, you're fixing equipment and pushing snow, that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
In the summertime, you're using a heck of a lot more equipment, you're doing an awful lot more tasks. I would think that there would be more time spent in the summertime.
If you need overtime, you need overtime.
It's an emergency driven thing, right, I understand.
Overtime, basically.
35 hours is, can we do that? Is that
Yes.
legal to cut him at 35 and the other guys at 40?
Yes. I talked to Aaron, and, he would be in agreement with that.
Everybody else? It helps a little bit, you know,
It helps.
it helps.
Cut me 5 hours. You have to understand, to me, there's certain days you can't, it's hard to do something due to the weather. Gets involved, go get material, or you have to have the weather to cooperate with what you're doing. I look at it this way. I wouldn't wanna go into an emergency room when they said, well, we didn't have anybody yesterday, so all the doctors stayed home. And it kinda works that way.
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
It does.
You're such a.
It does.
No.
Well, if we're cutting him 5 hours, he can come in an hour late or go home an hour early every day. And I mean, I don't really,
You can do that.
that's not a big deal. Jackie, I mean, you
What are you
talk-
on, 7 hours a day? 5 days a week?
Well, unless they've got something that they want him for, and then maybe he can do it on another day. Maybe he wants to get out early at noon on Fridays to go do
Yep,
something.
you can do that too, because.
I guess we
he's
can
got a
leave it
mowing
open
job,
to him
so-
if he wants to do the 35 and agrees to it. What do you think? Everybody good with that?
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to try to find somewhere where you, if you wanted to keep them at 40, that you find $37,000. Or actually, I guess we're already paying 23, so it's an extra 14,000. And I'm gonna go off the plant land study here, where it talks about closing the office on a Friday. If you close the office on Fridays, you get all the money in the world to pay the gentleman.
We do a lot of business on Friday. We
Monday.
get a lot of the people from Athens Township on Friday, believe it or not, because they're not open.
You guys are only open till noon anyway on Friday, aren't you? I mean, I don't open all day on Friday.
You're not gonna save any money on, what are you gonna save money on? Are you talking about cutting our hours off too?
Yeah, you cut the hours off. If the office was closed on Friday, then the hours would be cut.
We have a lot of business that takes place on Fridays.
What do you have people from Atlas for?
Pardon me?
You
I
said
can't hear
you,
you from the crowd.
you said you get a lot of people from Atlas. What might that
Atlas
be?
is closed,
We get their
so
phone
we get their
calls.
phone calls.
Oh,
People come in and then they drop affidavits off and then they can't go to Atlas Township. They just give us hours and then they have to wait until Monday. We have a lot of builders that call for inspections. It's just like a normal day, but only half a day. when we set up the hours, we reviewed the need to do that, and it's worked out rather well.
Atlas can take a day off, but we can't.
Well, no,
Atlas doesn't have half the business to
Let's-
deal
let's-
with as we do.
let's also start to where there's, the girls, all these girls don't work every day, all day, I mean, there's, you don't think the entire staff is there every day for their 8 hours?
No, I can see that for the 24
Okay,
hours, 24
okay.
hours, I get that, but if you're working 40 hours a week, you're only working, are you open on Saturday?
No,
No, thank you.
Okay, so you only work half a day on Friday,
Was,
so you're working 9.5, 10 hours during the week? That's what you're scheduled?
We stay open to 6 one night, Mondays. Is it Monday, 6 o'clock?
We work through lunch hours, if you're ever there on a lunch hour,
That's
we
against
don't
the law.
take it. I'm sorry?
That's against the law.
No, it's not.
If you work 8 hours, you have to take a 30-minute break.
We have signed affidavits from people that they're not. And if you can ask any of these people if they come in and talk to us.
they don't
during
share their
hour.
lunch either.
There's always somebody at,
They don't share their lunch.
no,
We wait for donuts or something.
you know.
Depends what they're having, you know.
So we're looking at 35 hours a week, guys, are we all on board with this?
I don't think-
Change there?
I don't think there's a problem with that.
I got a meeting here in 15 minutes, I wanna move along, please.
I agree.
Okay.
I'll go.
We're good with that, 35 hours? Anything else we wanna talk about? We've kind of went around and around and around.
Your sweeping proposal.
Sweeping proposals, what we're after.
Are you done? I will re-prepare the budget and clarify what Jake was coming up with, just to make sure, that they're in at 35. Are we done talking about?
I hope so, you've got everything, right?
The office staff, leaving it where it is?
I think we're done.
Well, you're shaking your head, he's sitting there.
I didn't move, I didn't speak. The only question that I will have, Mr. Baldwin, is for our clerk. And this is probably gonna be for next meeting, that we voted to allow her to stay as a clerk and continue on that, when that meeting will be taking place.
Well, there's an issue with the clerk. I am the clerk, and I don't get paid for being the clerk. Okay, Pat is the deputy clerk, and she is.
Sorry for the terminology, but I think you understood who I was speaking for.
I am. Pat is the deputy clerk, and you elect her as the person that takes the minutes for the meeting. That's what that's all about.
Correct. But that
And that takes place at the June meeting.
Okay, now we're all set, guys, with the sweeping.
I say no on the sweeping, because we just hired a third DBW worker.
I agree.
I disagree. You want it done, you want it done right, cleaned up right, when we sweep, we don't use water. And water's what keeps the dust down and gets it up. And when they sweep, they do a really, really good job. I mean, they got big brushes with, power on them. And, you're gonna find out, even if you got 3 guys sweeping, they can do it in 5 hours, it's gonna take you 40.
This is a pretty good sized machine that does it.
There's 2 of them that come in, they bring 2 of them in.
Should have done it before.
They bring them in, they bring a thing in to put the stuff in. And, when we first started sweeping, Ortonville had a sweeper. I traded them some grading, shoulder cutting, and they come down and swell. They did a good job, but the machine went to pieces during that year after they were down here. And, that's when we went to hiring that out, get it done, get it cleaned up, get all the sand out. And I believe, I don't know about this company, but the company came before, they could back with that machine. If there was something we needed back, and then they were cheaper than hiring Genesee County by far. There's certain drains in here Genesee County does back, and that's their drain. but some of them are our drains. I guess the biggest problem I've had with drains is when they went down to the school and they washed their truck out over it, their cement trucks from curbs, and they plugged up the drain with cement.
Certainly keeps our curbs and our drains clean, guys, you know?
And,
Thinking about the flooding issues here.
Um,
The cleaner you keep that, the more stuff you keep out of the drains.
quicker water goes away.
$1,700 really isn't that much.
13 one, 17.
17 first time, 13 after.
Okay.
Mr. President, may I comment?
Wait,
We've determined that, having, somebody take care of the planters, plant flowers, it's more cost effective to hire somebody, subcontract somebody. We've determined that the need to hire somebody to sweep the streets is more cost effective. They do a better job. How about plowing our roads?
that's not apples to oranges
Oh,
here.
yeah.
All I'm saying is that if the cleaner we keep those curbs and gutters, or catch basins,
I would say
it's
apples
about
to
keeping the
oranges.
drains clean, you know, that's kind of where I'm coming from. You've got a lot of miles of road for these guys to go out there and physically do it with brooms and stuff.
That's the only point, that's not very efficient.
Okay. You had a meeting at 6:30?
Well,
We're not done.
pretty close.
This is a motion that needs to be made. Do you wanna make a motion just to do it one time? It's $1,700. If you wanna accept their proposal, it's at a cost of $1,300 after that.
Make a motion, we
No, yeah, we can make a motion.
they can make a motion that we do it, in the spring and the fall, and we'll do uptown, the guys will sweep that before, fun days, or whatever we call it. We'll do the uptown, but we're not going into the south to sweep that. We'll do what we can uptown. We'll probably be painting lines up there right around that time anyway. We do sweep it all when we paint the lines anyway.
So what you're saying is doing two, one at 17 and one at 13, one in the spring and one in the fall, when the leaves fall.
Yes,
Is that your motion?
that's my motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any further discussion?
No, sweet.
Discussion, guys, we're good? Good with the motion? Let's do a roll call.
This is an amendment, can't.
Brandon,
No.
Horton,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Vic,
No.
Baldwin.
Yes. Okay, that's it, now we're just ready for public comment. Please.
I don't know if I'm going to the same meeting you
I
are.
think you are, so step on it.
We'll hurry. You know, every time we do the budget, there seems to be a lot of questions, a lot of confusion. How about in the fall, you go over all these policies, look at all the contracts, look at, personnel matters. You could do it over 2 or 3 meetings. Because it seems to me there's a lot of information that, people are still asking. And this information should have been available, and I'm sorry, I don't see what you see there. You shouldn't have to ask for that. Again, someone's name was mentioned, and I still think that job ought to be posted. You can hire who you want to, but to make it legal, it should be posted. And if I was doing the posting, I'd make it a supervisor. You got a problem in the DPW, just not getting work done. You can say all you want to, but, you try and find them in the middle of the day. You try and find them at 10, try and find them at 3. Yeah, I know, I'm running long. The COLA, I see, I think you should vote on that every year and not put that into contract, cause things can go up, down, whatever. And it could be a point where you almost negotiate and give and take. I would not put that in automatically, to take effect every year. Looks are important. I just happened to meet her last night, Kim. Looks are very important. I don't see why, if you do get the third person, why they couldn't take on at least some of those responsibilities, watering and whatnot. DPW is all over do the flowers. That's kinda silly. They're very capable of doing that. I don't have what you have, but I didn't hear anything about the lawyer's cost. Where's that coming out of? Is money being set aside?
There's money set aside.
All right, okay, make that public at the next meeting if you could. You know, we need to look ahead at some of these costs. You know, I really think that, we just can't keep living like we do. And, you know, watch the bottom line. Thank you.
Please,
And I'm out of here, I'll be there before you do.
obviously.
You're on your way.
35 hours or 40 hours, it's a full-time person, he's gotta be paid benefits. So 5 hours I don't see, but to have another full-time body, full-time benefits, and I'm not saying anything against the person you wanna hire, he's probably better qualified than everybody, but do you need him? No. 7 months, from September, October, till April, when it's not snowing, that's 18, 24, whatever you're paying them an hour, doing nothing. That's dead. You're talking about not wanting to have them do flowers because you're paying somebody $10? How about the guy that's doing nothing? There's so much lull time, I cannot believe every winter you got 2 full-timers in there, and when it's not snowing, what are they doing? Nothing. When it snows a little bit, the guy goes, takes the salt spreader around. That doesn't take all day. What does he do? Comes back and does nothing. There's so much lull time, it's sickening. And you're bringing another full-timer on. Does that make sense to you? Would you do it? You got a business. Would you hire somebody 24/7 to do nothing? It makes no sense.
I've got to go, sorry.
That's fine. I don't care to go. Mr. Baldwin, took many notes again during this entire meeting. And I'm concerned over, with Ms. Sidge, with her wages and salary that is on your budget. And I can say her name, she's part of the budget, she's our administrator. Was her time off in the summer included, did she get her full pay? Do you know if she did? Did she use her sick days? Did she have enough sick days to give her a whole summer off with full-time pay? How does this village pay her? You need to look at that. You need to let the public know. You need to go back and look at the budget of what we've paid her and ask yourself, is this her full-time wage? If she got that full-time wage and she got it, she took the time off for sick time and got full pay for it. Nobody does that. And I don't know your personnel policy that you have here that was handed out, that you need to have reviewed and have it worked on. But if it's up to the discretion of the administrator, how do you know she's not taking advantage of that?
Mr. Bolton?
Now, I also have another question on this. The other question I have is on the health insurance. Now, it was discussed by Mr. Vick, councilman. He brought it up, that her health insurance went up.
Let's not continually
I-
badger at one person here, you know?
Mr. Baldwin, this isn't badge. This is,
You know?
this isn't what you consider badgering, but I have a question. If in fact it went up that amount, I do believe that you owe it to the community to review the health insurance that we're paying. out of our tax dollars. It's up to you. It's the president's discretion. She kept repeating that it's the council that makes these decisions. The other thing I have, is it ethical or is it legal, either way you wanna look at it, to use the sewer fund to pay the bond on this building, to take the money out of that, to use for bond payment? Is it? Is it ethical?
Well, that's kinda how you do business.
Is it? I mean, I'm just asking, is it?
Yes,
Is it, okay, it is. All right,
been going on for quite some time too. many
I
years.
know. The other thing that was brought up was, Goodrich Meadows being repaved. I know that you did, do, repaving in, Fox Hollow, Rose Lane for $43,500. And that wasn't assessed to the, village residents, was it? Was it assessed or did it come out of our monies in the village?
Repair.
It was a repair. So you spent $43,500 for Rose Lane and Fox Hollow. Why couldn't you do that with Goodrich Meadows?
Because that ended repair, that road was never completed
Okay,
due to the fact of the bankruptcy.
okay, if you would, one thing I do wanna clear up one thing. When I was on council, I was part of a personnel committee, and because I wanted to work on it and I did, it was thrown to the wayside. So I wanna clear something up. I did wanna work on it, and I worked very diligently on it, but it was not ever used. The last thing I'm gonna say to you, Mr. Baldwin, and I'll repeat this openly in the council meetings, the Plant Moran study, we paid a lot of money for. You need to review it, you need to look at it, because we need to bring that back out, and we need to revisit it, and we should be doing that. That's your obligation as president, that you do have it. And again, you are the governing body.
Got a meeting, Katie?
I don't know, just a couple of,